As you can probably imagine, a question that I get asked a lot is, Jen, can I get rid of my belly? And I find it difficult to get across some of the nuance in this. So I'm going to give it a go here. There are sort of three main factors that may be contributing to your tummy, but we'll get to that in a minute. First of all, there are two things that I want to point out. One is, I don't know. And sometimes if I've actually met you, if you've come in for a one-on-one consultation, I can give it a good educated guess based on things that I've seen in the past and based on what you're presenting in front of me and those three factors that we're going to talk about in a minute. But I still don't have a crystal ball and I don't actually know. And it will also depend on a lot of factors like what you're willing to do and your genetic disposition and things that I just can't control or foresee. And second of all, maybe you never will get rid of your belly. Like, that is a possibility. Maybe you will always have a bit of a tummy and you may need to be okay with that. That's a difficult thing to say to people, and that's not a very popular opinion. And most trainers will just say, yes, I have the answer. I can absolutely get you a completely flat stomach. And I think they might be stretching the truth somewhat or getting your hopes up somewhat as well. I read something a little while ago that it's actually more common to be a millionaire than to have a six-pack. I'm not sure if the statistics are completely solid on that one, but if you look around at the people around you and look at their tummies, I don't know that many millionaires, but I don't know that many people with completely flat tummies either. Now, it's very, very fashionable, the idea that you should have a flat stomach. Not just that you should have a flat stomach, but that a flat stomach is something that is achievable for everyone, whether or not they've had babies, no matter how many babies they had. And that it's just something that's achievable for all men and women anyway. And that it's something that if you're not doing, then you're doing something wrong. You're eating the wrong things or you're doing the wrong workouts. And this statement, these kind of assumptions that people have in their heads are absolutely wrong. We actually really need to challenge the idea that we're all supposed to have completely flat bellies. Now, don't get me wrong, I know this is going down a bit of a body positive haze kind of route, and I'm not completely on that train. I absolutely believe that you can completely transform your body through diet and exercise, and that if that is something that you want to do, then it's completely your prerogative to do it. It's something that I care a great deal about with my own body, and that if you actually understand the rules of the game, how to actually lose fat and how to increase muscle in the areas that you want to increase muscle to create the shape that you want, which are the two things that we absolutely can do. Once you know the rules of that game, it's actually really, really empowering. You don't have to do it, but if it's something that you want to do, then you absolutely should do it. But you should make sure that you've got good information behind you. However, it's still really important to understand that the kind of ideals that we have in our head, many of them aren't attainable for the vast majority of us. Having a completely flat tummy simply isn't attainable for the vast majority of us. We don't have that genetic makeup. And maybe if you got really, really lean, you really got rid of loads and loads of body fat, maybe you could have that really flat tummy. But for many of us, we will have like structural things going on that will prevent that from happening, or the muscles have a certain shape, or maybe they're weakened from pregnancy and birth and they're never going to quite go back to being completely flat. And maybe they never were completely flat in the first place. And maybe they don't need to be completely flat in order to be completely functional and healthy and serve us in our everyday life. So the three factors that may be contributing towards your tummy and you may or may not be able to do something about are these. One, the first thing that you're probably going to think of is, I must have diastasis recti. Can you check if I have diastasis recti? You may have diastasis recti, you may not have diastasis recti. Diastasis recti really only describes the gap between the two sides of the rectus abdominis, and it gives us some information about what's going on with the abdomen, but not the whole picture. You can have a gap and you can have very strong muscles that are functional and doing what they're supposed to do and are flat. Or you could have no diastasis recti and you could have very weak muscles that are distended, still stretched out from pregnancy and don't have much muscle tone. So you might not have diastasis recti, but you might have distended muscles. And there may be something that you can do about though that situation. You could, if you follow a structured, logical, systematic core or abdominal strengthening program, you can often really improve the strength and the tone in those abdominal muscles, and you can often improve the appearance or change the appearance and make them kind of come in a little bit and be and sit flatter somewhere in between, like lying in between the pelvis and the rib cage. But there are a couple of limitations to this. One might be that the muscles and the connective tissue have been so stretched that they're not actually going to go back completely. Another one could be that you've never had a flat tummy and just genetically you're not going to have a flat tummy. So you might do everything right and actually never achieve a completely flat tummy, and there's nothing you can do about that. And you might need to be okay with that situation, that there's nothing you can do, there's nothing that you've done wrong, and there's nothing that you're doing wrong. It's just not something that's achievable. Again, I don't know if this is the case for you, and I don't go around telling people you're not going to be able to get a flat tummy, because you might be able to, but I don't know, and most trainers don't know. All we can do is kind of follow the steps to make that happen. The best evidence that we have that shows how to do that. It's kind of like if you want to build a business, you could follow a really solid business plan and marketing plan and like have it all laid out and do all the right things, but it might not succeed. And it might not succeed for a whole range of different reasons that we can't control. But you're definitely not gonna build a successful business if you don't do those things. So it's the only chance that you have to do it if that's what you want to achieve. The next factor that you might need to take into account, number 2, is body fat. You might be carrying excess body fat all over your body, including on your abdomen, and that's something that's contributing towards having a bit of a belly. Or you may be somebody who has more body fat, like disproportionate amounts of fat on your abdomen as opposed to other parts of your body. And again, it's not because of anything you did wrong, it's not because you eat carbs or sugar or the wrong types of food, or because you have adrenal fatigue or anything like that. It's simply because in your genetic code you have the tendency to lay down body fat in that specific area. Like some women have more body fat on their thighs and some on their back and some on their boobs. Like it's really not something that you can control to an enormous extent. And the third factor might be loose skin, and that's creating a bit of the appearance of a belly because there's skin there. I know that for me, for example, after having one baby, and I'm pretty much recovered from the birth, I have a bit of a combination of all three. I've never really had a completely flat belly, and that's probably got something to do with my structure, but it's also got something to do with the fact that I do tend to have a little bit of body fat on the front of my abdomen and on my lower abs that's really hard for me to get rid of. And I've sort of got rid of it when I was really at my leanest, but it's so hard for me to maintain that body weight that it's just not worth it for the sake of like a little bit of body fat. And since having a baby, there seems to be a little bit more body fat there. I'm carrying a little bit more body fat in general, so it does make sense. I also think the muscles are a teeny bit weaker and probably a little bit distended, so that probably contributes to it. And when I get bloated, now that shows up a lot more because the abdominal muscles are weaker. And I also have some loose skin. Now, if my goal was to get rid of that bit of belly fat that I had, and it's not really, but if it was, then there are bits that I can control about it and there are bits that I can't control about it. So I could do a bit more abdominal work to try and strengthen those muscles and maybe make them tighter and create hypertrophy, muscle growth in the muscles so they're a bit more kind of solid. Maybe that would help. but I can't guarantee it. I think my muscles are pretty much sitting where they're supposed to be, so I can't really guarantee that. I could just lose body fat all over. I'm about 20, 21, maybe 22% body fat. I'm pretty lean anyway. I'm not super duper lean, but I don't have an awful lot of body fat to lose, and I don't know if I can really be bothered to do that. I don't know if I really care that much about it, but it would probably help. I wouldn't be able to change the fact that I tend to store a bit more fat there than in other places. Like, I don't store fat, like I don't have big boobs, and I don't have much fat on my shoulders and on my arms. Like, this is just how my body is, and I can't really control that part of it. And then finally, the loose skin situation. So I've got all three contributing to it. The loose skin situation, I can't do anything about that really. I can, eat well, and maybe rubbing a bit of oil on it will help. Maybe it won't. Maybe just like some exfoliation, some massage, maybe it will help. But I've got some stretch marks, I've got some loose skin, and that's probably not going anywhere. So my personal approach to these things is control the controllables. If you have a specific goal, you have to control the things that you can control that are contributing to you not reaching your goal. But then the other stuff, you have to let it go. Of course, in order to do that, you actually need to know what things are controllable and what things aren't controllable. And that's not always easy to know. And that's where, consulting with an expert or a specialist can be really helpful and can be very illuminating. Another thing that I want to say that I'm realizing more and more is, even if you have a body part that you don't particularly like, and just going back to the whole body positive thing, I don't fully agree that you have to love your body all the time, or that you have to love every part of your body, and that you have to kind of do all this mental work to love it, even though it doesn't look the way that you would like, or it doesn't function the way that you would like. I think it's better to, if there are things that you can't change about your body that you don't particularly like, you don't get to choose whether you like something or not. Preference and liking is not something that we can choose. It's not a choice. It almost chooses us. So there is something to be said of body acceptance. If you do have a lot of loose skin, or if you do have a tummy that you can't get rid of, then you may need to accept that and be okay with that. But what I will say is, something that we're seeing more and more on the internet are women who have, lots and lots of loose skin on their abs, or hernias, or tummies that are really distended, and things going on in the abdomen that maybe isn't the kind of Cosmo girl ideal, but the rest of their body is completely kick-ass. Like, they look amazing. They've got a great shoulder boulder and arm muscles and back muscles and awesome quads and a great bum. You can still have an awesome body, even if a part of it doesn't quite live up to the standards that you would like to have. So my big thing would be like, yes, I know that your abdomen doesn't look the way that you want it to look, and yeah, that sucks a bit, and you're going to have to do some work to accept that. But don't forget about the rest of your body. Don't neglect the rest of your body, because you can still do a lot to change, or to create the body that you would like to be walking around in. And not just in terms of aesthetics, but also in terms of function. Like, would you feel really, really badass if you could do a pull-up, or if you could do a body weight deadlift, or if you could do 10 push-ups off the floor? Because those things are really cool. Or a handstand. Those things are really cool to be able to do, and they make you feel really amazing, and they've got nothing to do with how your body looks. So maybe take the focus away for a little while from the way your body looks, and try and build the body that you want to have, that the way you want it to function, and that might be a better focus for you for a while. But even if aesthetics do matter to you, and they matter to most of us, don't forget that you can really build an amazing body even if a part of it doesn't adapt to the way that you would like it to be. So I hope you like this little video. It's a kind of a bit of a nuanced perspective, hopefully a different perspective from what you've heard in the past about your tummy, how to get rid of your tummy, if you can get rid of your tummy, and hopefully it answers some questions for you if you are concerned about the way your tummy looks and you'd like to change it and you don't know how and you don't know if it's possible. Like I said, I get asked this by lots and lots of women, and I find it very hard to discuss that nuance of it. So if you found this video useful, give me a like, comment below if it gave you any particular insights, and make sure you share it with a friend who might be able to benefit from this as well. Thanks for listening.